there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Happy holidays indeed, and it is yet another CFN Live because it is Monday, and it's an honor and a pleasure to have all you wonderful folks along. I don't expect this to be a very long show. Obviously, everybody's getting ready for the holiday season, and you're probably doing some last-minute shopping, and Lord only knows what you're getting ready for because this is – I just can't believe it's Christmas already. It's amazing. We literally were fishing – at Camp McIntosh, it seems. We were up at the North Channel, and it seems just like yesterday. It's incredible how time flies. But needless to say, we will spend some time together. We've got Big Jim and, of course, Lawrence. Jay's not going to be with us tonight. He has a family affair, so we want to wish him well. And, of course, Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday Season. To Pete Leduc, the same thing. How you doing, Pete? Nice to have you along. Again, happy holidays. Adrian, yeah, baby. Nice to have you as well. Rob's with us. Oh, we've got a good contingent of Saskatchewaners with us. Nice to have you along, Rob. As always, Lloyd, it's a pleasure to have you. Steve, yeah, absolutely. The man behind the scenes. He is my producer, if you will. Whether he likes it or not, he is. He is the producer of the show, and we always appreciate Steve being around and doing all his edits and everything else. So nice to have you along, Steve, of course, sharing some time. During the holiday season, we would like to get to all of you when it comes to wishing you a Merry Christmas, and we will do that at the end. But for right now, I will just go through Camp McIntosh. Hello, how you doing, guys? It is always a pleasure to have you folks along with us as well. We're looking forward. I mean, it's going to be here before you know it. Our 5th annual CFN retreat up at Camp Mac. Looking forward to that. Always a pleasure. Rob, there's Mitch. How you doing, Mitch? Yes, sir. Beautiful Timmins. You guys got, I heard you got like half a meter of snow up your way. Like, where do you put a half a meter of snow? Luke's with us. So how many have you had so far, Luke? Are you on your 5th, 6th, or perhaps 7th? His flight's been delayed. I'm going to assume that you're still in the lobby. And if you are, and you've had a few bevies, sit back, enjoy a tale. We will certainly do our best to share a few great stories. Jess, how you doing? Nice to have you along, my friend. All right, let's get right to it. Of course, we have all the announcements in regards to everything that's going on in CFN land. We're going to save that because we want to get right to the show. As I said, I know all of you are busy, and we want to get to whatever it is that you need to get to. And it is last minute. It's the 22nd. Like, you know, the big man's going to be coming down the chimney in 3 days. So we all got to get ready. And trust me, I have things I need to still do myself. So with that being said, of course, we do have Big Jim, and he's coming up right after this.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
Yo,
There he
yo.
is. The big man himself. Ho, ho, indeed. How you doing, buddy?
Oh,
You look good, man. You wear it well.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the kids at Christmas. I got the Valium. I'm
I
ready
was
to
just
go.
going to say, you got the Valium dispenser all topped up. You got backup the backup. When does the clan show up? Christmas Day, Christmas Eve?
Yeah, our place is going to be one family on Christmas Eve. Then Jennifer's going to come down. Hey, Lloyd. And then Jennifer is going to come down from Pembroke late on Boxing Day and stay over for the night. And then the day after Boxing Day, we'll have a nice dinner together, and she'll stay over Thursday night, and then or Friday night, I guess it is, and then she'll bring the hooligans back up to Pembroke. So
Bring the show on the road. Well,
hey Jesse, yeah, no,
we hope you survive. You did all these other years.
it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be nip and tuck. I know. It's going to be nip and tuck. Jim, lots of ice reports coming in. As we discussed before we went live, there's not really a lot going on other than that. In
Much no drownings I've seen this week, so that's good.
We talked about a video that was shared about a shack that was on ice that was waving back and forth.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that didn't look good. If in fact it was real, but needless to say, yes, I'm beginning to think with some of these ice reports, the majority of them, and the amount of them that are being shared, whether on YouTube, Facebook, wherever.
Yeah,
I think we're starting to be a little bit safer. Jim, can I be so bold as
I'd like to think it? Yeah, I'd like to think it. I know. Eventually they're going to have to learn, because there's more and more coming down for leftovers. Hey, with the ones from Pembroke, Steve, you're wasting your time. Go to Harvey's on the way, and you're always welcome here too, buddy.
But yeah, John White's out there.
Hope.
You've got quite a few, I would say, reputable and notable anglers in our community that are sharing these on the regular, and people like truly. They wait on the edge of their seat for these things, and it seems to be getting a message across, and people are now approaching it. It seems anyway a little bit safer than before. You see the same thing?
I think so. I saw one that was posted with a guy. He had 3 little kids with him on the ice, and I thought to myself, this was a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, Jesus, you got 3 little kids on the ice. You don't have a life jacket on them. Like I've had a few people say to me, they've seen me wear a life jacket to go ice fishing early in the year. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, at least if I fall through, I know I'm not going under. Mm-hmm. It's that type of a thing. And I don't see anything wrong with a life jacket, especially, you're not going to buy an 8-year-old a floater suit because, two ice fishing trips down the road, it doesn't fit them.
Yeah,
that type of stuff, and I get that, but it's great to let them be on the ice. So just simply put a life vest on them. It's pretty easy to do. Get one of the ones with the bit at the back to hold their head up should they go in. But 100%. I'm watching a guy, and then it was almost like the guy. I'm watching the video, and I'm thinking I'm getting hot, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying to myself, I'm going to send this guy a little private note. I'm not going to go on and say, hey, what kind of an idiot are you, and all this stuff, everything else, and I was going to send him a little private note. No, out of the blue, he looks around and he says, just so all you people at home that are getting ready to I think he went to say shit, and he said dump on me means the same thing. So I thought that was pretty sharp.
That is sharp.
And he was there, and he said the ice is almost 10 inches thick where we are. So, it's that type of a thing. Like, all the snow disappeared here. The kids around the dock here tonight, late this afternoon, there must have been 25 of them out there just hacking, and you could hear the slamming of the sticks and the screaming, and I don't think they had to call the ambulance today. But they've got it cleaned up, and they're out there hacking around. Nobody got hurt. Those kid got hurt on the weekend out there hacking around. Poor little guy. I didn't see it, but apparently got stick in the teeth.
Hey,
teeth were bent back in. So I don't know whether they can save them when they get bent back in like that. He wasn't very old. I think he's about 7 or something.
yeah.
So they're probably going to end up coming up anyway, I guess. But
So, what would be interesting for most of us here, and especially for folks out in Saskatchewan, out in the prairies, is there someone that you watch, you listen to, you follow for ice reports? George posted something here. Yeah, I've seen a couple of his reports. Yep, absolutely. He's definitely a good one. John White is great for Lake Simcoe and Couchiching. How many others are out there? Like, I mean, there's an endless number of folks out there doing ice reports, and they do it daily, which is good.
Yeah.
And
I like the guys that go out, cut the hole, get down on their knee. They've got something that plainly measures it, and they show how thick the ice is. They've got a stick with a piece going across the bottom, and they put it down and pull it up, and you can see it's 6.5 inches. And I saw a guy doing one the other day, and he was marking it every time when he went out, and you could see them. You could see nights where there was no freezing, nights when it froze like 3/4 of an inch, and things like right up. And he had gotten he had gotten to almost 9 inches where he was, but he was up toward Cochrane.
Mm-hmm.
He fished. What's that big lake up by Cochrane where Ketchinay lodges and that? Temagami.
Eagle Lake.
Temagami.
Oh, Temagami. Okay.
Yeah, he was on that, and he mentioned too. He said I'm in a bay. He didn't say I'm in like Big Jim's Bay or whatever. So there'd be 10,000 guys there next week. He said I'm just in a bay, but he said remember, he said I can walk a half a mile from here and find open water, still in the expanse of the lake in the big giant basin. Where the wind has been wild this year, right?
It has.
The mouth of the Cataraqui River here at Kingston there, where it goes underneath the 401 and goes out and widens out in front of Kingston, that was frozen. It was frozen, and you don't usually see that in the middle of the winter. And it's just really weird because it was froze across, and then we had those giant winds. It's gone.
Wow.
The ice is gone. I don't know how thick it was, but it was thick enough, you know what I mean? You could see where people had walked their dogs along the shore, mind you, not too far out and things like that, and the snow. And then when snow melted and we got that tremendous wind there.
Yeah.
Was it Saturday night or Friday night that we got the big wind?
Friday into Saturday.
Yeah, it's gone.
Wicked wind. Yeah. And great reminder as always, Mike, there is no such thing as safe ice. And we're reminded of that from those, like, as I said, I'm a big follower of John.
Check for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm never walking out on the ice because Billy Bob went on and said, I'm on Big Rito and there's 14 inches of ice. Doesn't happen. I'm checking.
Yeah.
I'm being very careful. I mean, the days of, I remember in my heyday ice fishing many, many moons ago, we used to drive around on the Big Rito. Once you got to the middle of January, there was 35 inches of ice.
Yeah.
That was out in the basin where it's the thinnest.
Crazy.
Like you get on at the shore, there was places there where we got on at the shore and there's like 4 feet of water, and it's frozen at the bottom. You didn't have, like, I went out with a flasher just to check it, and just checking it through the ice by wetting it, and a good black
100%.
ice. Yeah, so much like that. So it's I don't know. I think there's no doubt about it. The safety thing, it does seem to be in so many more people's minds, especially the people that are doing it, would I say, a little more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got proper proper shacks, and they've got ice augers and depth finders and things like that. Like they're a little more involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the type of people. And when you see more and more of them out there, then I think the people that aren't being safe enough will watch these people, and it will just become a way of how they operate. I always operated way over safe. Like, I mean, I've driven up from one end of the Big Rito to the other in the wintertime, and it didn't make a difference. The doors were unlocked, and all the windows were down.
Yeah. And
it was that simple. And quite often the doors were open. Like it wasn't going through, if it did happen. And I mean, I knew I'd get out and check, you'd drill a hole, there'd be 39 inches of ice. When I used to come home from the Toronto Sportsman Show, I would take a week and I would go ice fishing. So that's in March. now in March, the ice is gone before you get to the show. You like
Pretty
not
much, yeah.
a lot of time, it's going. And I'd go out on the big Rito, and there was a lot of times where I would have the drill head sitting on the ice, and I wasn't through. And
Jeez.
yeah, you drive around and you fished wherever you got through.
What a difference, eh? Like, holy smokes.
Yep.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
have an old lad that I used to talk to here, and he told me, he said to me one day when we were was chatting to him, he says, I remember back, he says, I don't know, it might have been in the 40s, early 40s. He said, I don't remember. This old guy's like 90, eh? He used to live in the old folks' home on the main street there. And I talked to him, and he said to me, he says, I lived over on such and such a road. I didn't recognize it. It was just after I moved here. And he told me, he says to me, I remember we had a couple of winters where we didn't have ice here.
Wow.
And I looked at him, I said, like, what do you mean by not have ice? He said, well, it never froze. It would freeze over for a week and then it would be gone again.
Wow.
That's never happened since I've been here.
Wow.
I mean,
Well,
the backyard isn't a good. So what's that, Scotty?
Truly a cycle, and
Yeah,
you can call it whatever you want, global warming, this, that, everything else,
Who
climate
knows
change.
how long they are?
Exactly. At the end
I
of the
still
day,
remember Pfizer saying to me one day, he looked at me, he said to me, how do we know a real weather cycle if they exist? They don't even know if they're true. How do we know it isn't 30,000 years?
Yeah.
And he had a buddy that worked at NASA, told him that before every ice age in North America, there have been periods of rapid heating and cooling, where you'll have several decades where the temperature, there's no ice, there's ice, there's no ice, there's no ice, and all of a sudden, pow, there's ice.
Yeah. And
you don't realize that the whole time it's just coming down like 1/100 of a degree every year or whatever, until it gets cold enough that it freezes. That was this guy's theory. And he was big time on climate. Well, I guess when you work for NASA, you sort of know what you're talking about.
Agreed. And I will say, I mean, we have been experiencing weather that was cold enough to make ice.
Yeah.
And then, the extremes that they are out in the prairies, like they're going to be in a heat wave this next week coming, from what I understand, that they're going to set record temperatures, especially in the Midwest of the U.S. Like, it's just ridiculous. 70 and 75 degree Fahrenheit weather down in the States. Like, just
they're showing up the whole United States. They're light orange to dark orange, right up to Canada. Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, that, like, unless you're in a really high elevation, you're gonna have a green Christmas.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a white Christmas here. There's not much snow.
There is snow coming. I had no idea that we had a storm.
Yeah, there's a bit here. There's 2 or 3 centimeters here, 2 or 3 centimeters there. Yeah.
Now, on that note of thick ice, safe ice, thin ice, whatever you want to call it, and if you are looking for that person that has everything and you're doing some last minute Christmas shopping, Jim, I wanted to share this with you, and only because I don't know where you would find ice thick enough, except for out west, to house these things.
On Quest 220, $85,000 MSRP on this puppy here, but you can see a full 8-foot wide, 22 feet long. I think we'd have to go back and look at it, but you've got that bunk all the way in the back there. That's a lift bed. You've got your full dinette in the back there. Of course, that can go down into a nice big size bed as well, probably a queen size bed. You've got TV wall mounted right by the door, your big ambush control panel there. You've got a storage closet right in front of the entrance door across from it. You've got a bunk and a bench underneath there. And then tons of cabinet space, full fridge, microwave, oven, stovetop. I think that's a dry flush toilet, it looked like. And then you've got your converter and everything up in that front bathroom space there.
So, Jim, when you see something like this, like, technology is a wonderful thing, and we are doing great things when it comes to building large items like this that are half the weight that they used to be because of aluminum and all these other different materials. But like something like this, how much ice would you be comfortable dragging something like that out on?
No, probably 25 inches.
Yeah.
Because I saw I saw guys drive a dump truck across the Big Rito on 30 inches of ice,
Jeez.
like a dump truck loaded. So I don't know what that would weigh, but they had to get stone across, and they had an ice road, and it was at the end of February, and they went back and forth 4 or 5 times with the dump truck to put the stone on the far shore because they
Jeez.
couldn't get to it from the bush. They would have had to clear a road to get this stone to where they were going to build. So if you're going to drive a dump truck, 3 feet of
Yeah.
ice, yes, 3 feet of ice is a lot of ice.
It is a lot
And
of
when
ice.
you
You're
look at
100%.
the ice roads up north,
Mhm.
a lot of times they're only on 35 inches of ice.
Yep, you're so right. So right. And then he gets into this, and I love Alex Tim. He does all these kind of videos, and he's very open, very he's willing to share a lot of the information that he learns. I really like him as a resource base when it comes to stuff like this. And then he shows this hut that is making all kinds of waves and channels across social media. This thing is decked out from a technological standpoint. There's nothing that you could possibly want that has anything to do with fishing that's not incorporated in this hut.
That's cool. But when
fishmn.com, you've probably seen these around. This is a brand new shack that they have this year. It is an ice camping shack where they've got, I think it's 5 TVs in here. They've got the 3 bunks in the back. And then you've got where you can sleep on these fold-out benches here. I think there's 2 of them there. So it's a 5-person sleeper shack with the 3 bunks and then the 2 here. And you can see you've got live scope, you've got underwater camera. This thing's decked out. You've got a cooking area here, microwave, cooktop. I love the all black interior. It looks pretty awesome. At this show, they had just finished it like a couple of days before. Really nice fireplace on the inside. They've got a bunch of catch cover accessories for rattle reels. Again, live scope. You've got underwater camera, and then you've got TV that you can watch as well. And you can see all the holes that they have. Here's an outside view of what this awesome thing looks like.
I gotta ask Jim.
I wonder how many nights that would be on the ice before it got broken into. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
right. Like and I'm sure that hut is probably $100,000 if it's a cent. But at the end of the day, like Jim, what did you start when you started ice fishing? What did you start with? A 5-gallon pail and
a heavy coat, a 5-gallon pail.
Look at where we're at now. Look at these things. And then we've seen 2-tiered huts where they've got, the party room up top and then all the fishing, the business section down below. Like there's these massive bungalows. Like it's incredible where we're at now.
Yeah, it's a whole different deal, eh? It's just and people are starting to travel now. Like we got to get Ryan on from Yellowknife Guiding there.
Yeah.
We got to get him on. I was talking to him the other day. He's had families from Japan, Germany this year, all over the place, going to Yellowknife to go ice fishing. Like,
no.
wow.
Yeah, no. I as much as I love to fish, there's a line. Like I that would be fun to do once, maybe. I don't know if I'd want to go back on a regular basis.
It's the financial thing too. Like he had one there. Like the guy brought a family of 5. So counting him, there was 6 people, flying them there, putting them all up in housing, like for a week, putting them in hotels and the meals and everything else. I don't know. I know people that spend 25, 30 grand on a vacation. Why? Because they have the money. So it's no different.
100%.
And Edward McKenzie.
Yep, we've got 24 inches plus. Typically, you'd be surprised at how much 24 inches of ice can support.
No, Mitch, the 24 inches was for me and Scotty, not counting.
Well, that's true.
Where we got to bump it up to 36.
Thanks for clearing that up, Jim. I appreciate that. 18 inches of ice to land a helicopter. Really? Interesting. I like that. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of helicopters, I found a whole bunch of pictures, and I've been bringing boxes out of the garage, as you know. I would say, Scotty, that the garage is 50% empty now.
Wow.
Yeah. Like there's a pile of broken down boxes. You know the way I've got those 3-tiered shelves?
Yeah.
There's a pile of boxes I've cut down and stacked up for the day that I ever moved from here. And it's all 3 shelves right up to the ceiling of broken down boxes. So I found this is a picture of me when I used to be in the Army.
Oh,
So the funny thing about this is,
wow.
this is up in Petawawa. I'm sitting on the seat, and this helicopter was being redone. It was being all revamped, like all the structural mounts replaced and everything. So I'm sitting in the seat, and I'm my jovial self. I got the seat belt on and everything else, and they're having a good laugh, and all the boys are there and everything. Hey, it's pretty cool. And I lean forward, and because the seat's not screwed to the floor, it falls out the door.
Oh my
And as I'm
Lord.
going to the floor with the seat, I yell, "Do I have a parachute?" And of course, it's about 3 feet to the floor. Oh my God, it was so funny. And I stand up, I look up, and I'm sort of in this seat. I'm just about dead. And I look up, and there's a guy there, and he's in full uniform and everything. And it's the general that's in charge of the base. And he looks at me, and he looks at them, and he just shakes his head. And he goes, "Hi, Big Jim. How are you? Hope you enjoy your visit." And he keeps walking, just shaking his. He wasn't even gonna go there.
Wow.
I asked the guys after, "Did you guys get shit for that?" I said, "No, it was great." He said, "Because I went up there and I did a seminar for all the guys and all that stuff, and I was there for a couple of nights and everything. It was awesome." But these pictures, here's another good one. Me and Polkaroo at the Toronto Sports.
Polkaroo.
That was a hit with the grandkids, boy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Here's the old days with the golden logs.
Oh yeah, with the flow, man. Serious flow.
Oh, there's a bunch of these here. I'll zip through them quick. Just out in the middle of Big Rito. No, that's not. That's I forget the name of that lake. It was a little lake, little pothole that we found. You go catch 100 bass a day like that in it.
Jeez.
Nobody that's on a Saturday. Look behind me. Not another boat
No,
here.
not
Right?
another boat on the water. No.
There's an old one right there. Tammy when she looked like Madonna.
Oh yes, yep.
That was Dave Ardell that played for the Rough Riders.
Oh right, yeah.
That was the night of the grand opening of the Lone Star in Mississauga,
Cool.
and I got to sit across from Angelo Mosca, and
Big
I shook
man.
hands with him. I'm like, I have a fair-sized hand, and it was like shaking hands with a catcher's mitt. It was just absolutely like, well, here's
He
one of
was
the
a
best
big
days
man.
ever. One of the best days ever.
Oh, awesome.
Okay?
That is so awesome.
One of the best days ever. That was a big
Jeez.
day.
Wow.
That was it. $85,000. I can handle. See that fish?
Yeah.
I fished that lake that day. I fished weed lines, cranked weed lines, straight off Highway 15. I cranked weed lines. I did everything I knew how to do. And this is when I still knew how to do it.
Mhm.
And I had Tammy with me to try and get some photos.
Okay.
And I got bid off for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 cranks, deep ones. So the pike were eating, and there's big pike in that. I just didn't happen to hook them. They bit it off when I set the hook, eh?
Mhm.
And anyways, I said to her about 2:30 in the afternoon. I said, "Well," I said, "I'm going to go lick my wounds in this." I said, "I'm just going to fish those docks up that shore." I said, "I want to get away from where pike would be because the activity level just seems just offside."
Yeah.
So I go along this row of docks. There's like 15 docks, and it goes to a point, and then across to the boat launch on which right at Highway 15, and I left. So I would have probably had 23, 24 pounds in the boat off those docks. They were all like that.
Unreal.
You know, it just shows to show you have a pattern. And I changed what I was doing because it wasn't working. One with the
Yeah.
squids.
Oh yeah,
They're
that's
all
awesome.
growing up now. I think we've seen that one before. That's the first springer, Casey.
Wow.
I was ice fishing behind the house. That was when I lived on Graham Lake Road. That's
And what year would that have been, Jim?
I don't know, 1720. But Tammy let the dog out to go for a tinkle,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting down at the lake, and all of a sudden, boom, there he is. And then she came down and took some pictures. I had some really nice pumpkin seeds. You can see the
Oh
size
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
and the color. Time I spent with Takasaki, with Mark Thorpe.
What a gem of a man. I love Ted. He's
Look how
such
young
a-
he is, right?
Yeah.
We,
Yeah, what
we
is he,
got like 5 or
11
6
there?
fish like that day.
Incredible.
We're all 25, 28, 35. It was just so cool.
Now, had he caught muskie like that before, or was that his first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the biggest bass I ever caught in Canada.
Wow. Is that your fist in its mouth?
It's my fist in my mouth up to my wrist, Scotty.
Jeez.
That's what I tell guys. They say, "Oh, I caught a 5-pounder. My fist fit in its mouth." And I say, "You must have hands like a girl." There's nothing wrong with having hands like a girl. Everybody doesn't have a mitt like this. You know what I mean? But it's what it is. Yeah, that's what and it was up to here.
That's
And
incredible.
my hand won't go in a 5-pounder's mouth. The last time I put my hand in a fish's mouth was the one over by the culvert here that I thought was bumping 7.
Yeah. Incredible.
My fish just went in its mouth. So, yeah.
Just before we let you go, and if you find any downtime, I wanted to introduce this, and I'm sure people have been seeing it. I kind of want to get to the bottom of whether it was real. We did do a little bit of research before we went live, but there's this new app. It's a gambling app. Not 100% sure how it works, but I just look at the excitement that it brings and the money, which we'll share in a second. But just watch this video. It is enticing and certainly can be exciting. The really cool thing, and I shared this with you, Jim, before we went live, of all the videos, this is the only video that I could share that didn't have like incredible swearing in it and what have you. And it just goes to show the engagement and excitement that folks have when they play it.
Oh yeah! Here he comes! Here he comes! Boys! Come on! It can't do it! Come on! Oh my God! That's a big one, Quinn! You ever seen a fish that big, kid?
No, I've never seen a fish that big, bro.
Oh, the first other one! Oh!
The military chopper.
Oh my God! Oh man! What is it? Oh! Hey! Oh! Hey, guys! Oh my God! You don't understand! 250!
Now, I know folks right away are, is this legit? Is this real? I don't honestly know, but apparently it is in the Ontario Lottery Commission.
Yeah, I Googled it there when you went live. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have posted payouts. So unless these are all bots, they've handed out an awful lot of money in Canada for this game. So again, I'm not here to suggest that, anybody should gamble. If you do, certainly know your limit, but interesting to see something like this and the amount of payouts that are associated with it. So
that's wild. It
is incredible. That's almost $1 million. It probably is $1 million. I quickly do the math. That's $1 million they made.
Yeah, it's way over. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like $1.5 million probably. Yeah,
and nuts, absolutely nuts. Well, speaking of nuts, Jim, our day has come to an end. I knew I'd get your attention. Roasted chestnuts. I don't know. No. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, my friend. Hoping you get some rest over the holidays and you enjoy the grandkids and then the Valium.
Hey, before you go, I got my favorite Christmas song ever out. You got to listen to it.
All right.
Come on. Oh, where is it? What an idiot I am.
I'm not saying a word.
It's not really a Christmas song, but it seems to get a lot of play at Christmas.
Okay.
No, that's not it. That's the ad. This is the most tasteful piece of music I've ever heard in my life.
You are fine. When I could have been your star, you listen to people.
They always play this at Christmas. Isn't that tasteful?
Is that Michael Bublé?
No. George Michael.
Oh, jeez. That's a blast from the past. Wow.
I should have the music thing of the week.
Well, Well, it's a new year, Jim. We could start doing all kinds of weird things next year if you want.
I found a thing of Burton Cummings from the Guess Who
Yeah.
from 1972, like right in the middle of American Woman and all that and everything, eh?
Yeah.
And he's on a stage, and the amplifiers have burned. Some of the amplifiers have burned out, so they got about a 10-minute break while you can hear all the guys in the background, screaming and yelling, getting the stuff moving and everything else. And he goes and he starts playing this song, and it's kind of a jazzy song. It would be almost like this, except he's really using that young, powerful voice that he had, eh?
Right.
And it's called Artificial Flowers, and it's lights out.
Wow.
It's lights out. When you hear his voice, and instead of singing something like American Woman, here he is singing this song. And I can't find it anywhere. I think it's some little thing that he had made up that never became a song.
If anybody wants to get Jim that extra special something, if you could send him that song, that would be fan-freaking-tastic.
Artificial Flowers to get to live.
Right on, Jim. You have yourself a great holiday season, buddy. All the best to the family.
I will do it. I want to say to you guys, it's I genuinely enjoy coming here every week. I know I've been shirking my duties lately, but trust me, the pile of bullshit in my life in the last year, you couldn't write the movie. So we'll keep moving forward. I had Warren priming me today to share a room with you next fall. My last words to him, I said, Warren, have you ever heard Scotty snore? You must have. You were within 2 miles of that cottage.
Yeah, guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. You got me there, Jim. But as I said, man, anytime you want me to come snore and wake you up, I'm there for you, pal.
We're in, brother. We're in. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. When are we back?
We're probably going to be back after the New Year.
So like a 2-week break?
I think the 5th. I think it's January 5th that we'll be back.
Well,
right on.
A wonderful Christmas. Happy New Year.
We got Lawrence coming up right after this. You take care, bud. There he is, the one and only Lawrence Gunther.
Hey, Scotty. How you doing
this evening, my friend?
Oh, doing well. You know, we were wrapping a little presents this afternoon, and everyone's running around last minute, and it's just kids are off school, and work's good and quiet. We did we were pushing on fundraiser over the last week, and that sort of wrapped up, and just putting the ends to some end of year stuff. It's so nice. And then looking ahead, making my lists of things to do come January. Holy mackerel. Wow.
Yeah. 100%, dude. It is I'm dwelling on something that I'm sure everybody feels the same way about. Time just flies. Like it's incredible. Before we know it, you and I are going to be in Ottawa at the Ottawa show. Like that'll be here before you can blink.
I know. And that's, I got pressure on me, what's Bluefish Canada going to do at the show this year, and I'm thinking, oh man, scale it down, make it, make focus on one thing, one killer kind of reason to, for people to come to the show, give them a good reason to come to the show. It just takes one thing. And if everyone that exhibits at the show has one cool thing that, they know it's going to be a headliner, man, people will leave the show and they go, wow, that was great. Don't spread yourself so thin, and everyone focus on serving up one really cool thing, man. And the show is going to be fantastic. You see it, like these shows are, I don't know if they're coming back or if they're fading out, but even the Toronto Sportsman show, they keep reading announcements on that. And that seems to be getting big and doing well again. It's just amazing.
It is, and I do believe that this is going to be, a determining year for these shows. Because let's face it, without getting into all the details, things are different. Whether we want to admit it or own up to it or warm up to the idea of it, things are different. People's money isn't going to go as far as it once did. Cost of living is going through the roof, and just jobs in general. It's tough, and I like to think that we do our part to try and create a diversion, just something where people can get away and talk about something that they truly like and be associated with something that they like. But these shows, I have to say, it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. Are people going to spend the money? Are people still going to be interested like they were, during COVID in the outdoors and getting out and doing things, whether it be, during the soft water months or the hard water months. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And the Ottawa show is certainly growing. Attendance goes up every year. They have included a fishing aspect, and we're proud to be there as the Made in Canada marketplace. And we're going to have our own group of vendors. Toronto Sportsman Show, same thing. I was actually talking to Scott Sprague today, and all is well so far. Everything's a green light, and they're expecting quite a crowd. So he's talking very positively about it, and it sounds very exciting. They've got some new things that they're going to be introducing at the show. They're going to get kids to fly tie. There's going to be a section where kids are going to be able to tie their own flies.
Yeah.
So
exciting stuff. Like, this is a way the shows were like when we were kids. There was exciting things going on everywhere, right? Yeah. It was all about giving you a reason to come to the show. And it wasn't just, let's get our stores in there and sell a whole bunch of stuff and make a whole bunch of money. And it sort of became like that. It was less about let us entertain you. It was more about let us make sure your wallet is empty by the time you leave. And not really any good deals, right? And people said, well, no good deals, I'm not coming back. And I think it was a bit of a reality check. People want, if you're a retailer, have a good deal or two that are just like, wow, that's a great deal. And people are, hauling those things out of your space. And if they pick other stuff up along the way, that's good for you. But have a few good deals. Everyone should have a few really cool things to offer that's, where they're losing on it. And the people coming to the show are walking away going, wow, can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And as disappointing as it was for Brad Knight to announce that we were going to cancel our standalone shows, it's a reality check. We did so for a number of reasons, and of course stretching the vendors a little thin when it comes to stock and making sure that they have enough product. There's a lot of shows out there, and CanCast is growing, as we've heard. The Muskie Odyssey's joining them this year, and that's going to be a huge show because now you've got 3 buildings, 2 venues that's going to incorporate Muskies. The Muskie.
And let's face it, the Muskie Odyssey was a half-day show. Like, I know it was 2 days, in reality, but it was that one, the show. People showed up for the first morning. They lined up at 3:00. They went in, they got all the hot deals, picked up all the lures they wanted, and by noon, 1:00 in the afternoon, it was over. And the next day was, so I mean, again, you gotta have reasons. It's gotta be more than just one thing. You gotta have a bunch of stuff, and people will come back day after day, or come twice, or at least they'll tell people and they'll come. But if it's just a shopping spree, it can happen so fast. And then, people are just there and they go, oh, I got this much money to spent it, gone. They're not looking around. They're not being entertained. But, the good shows, they have stuff for families. They have stuff for everybody. You come with your grandchildren. You come with your children. You come with any kids you can find, just so you can see them have a great time and get excited about 100%. Fishing and hunting and boats and all of that stuff, right? I love that kind of stuff. I love tretail, but I love, it's got to be an experience. Bass Pro Shops, right? Look at Bass Pro Shops. Who doesn't love walking into a Bass Pro Shop?
Absolutely. And the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, they've been announcing all their speakers, so they've got a big lineup of special guests. They're going to be coming and talk about fishing, and I know a lot of those segments are very well attended at the spring show. So it's going to be interesting, dude. As I said, when the dust settles and we get through the show season, it'll be interesting to see where we're at and how well everybody did, and sort of it might be the canary in the mine. We might have a pretty good idea after the show season's over where we're at when it comes to folks and what they're dealing with and how much money's being spent, and it'll be a good barometer, good test. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results, but I am also very excited to be a part of some of the venues and some of the shows that we've associated ourselves with. So it's going to be an interesting year, 2026, to say the absolute least. And, a look back, we should probably, you and I, take a look back at some of the big stories that have happened over the year. It all started during the election. Of course, they opened up the opportunity for more inshore cod to be caught out east. We've heard the trials and tribulations of what was going on out west, the Great Lakes, and where we're at with urbanization and pollution and all. Like there's some really big stories, but was there one story that really stood out to you, Lawrence, that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think just about shows, you think about COVID and the empty shelves that, in 2020, 2021. And then the boating industry, the marine industry, the fishing industries just, pulled out all the stops to manufacture as much as they could. And if the resources were, limited, they just paid to get more resources, and the cost of everything just skyrocketed. But they couldn't get it on the shelves fast enough in 2022. Then comes 2023 along, and people are saying, wow, man, I kind of overspent here. And, interest rates are starting to go up. And now I got these bills to pay. And to slow down the industry, the manufacturing, you can't just shut that stuff off, with a flick of a switch. That means laying off people, closing doors, telling your investors that you just took the big loans out to build these factories to say, you know what, we're going to have to cut back and you're going to have to take a little pause on how much we pay you back. And in the meantime, these factories kept pumping out stuff because it's not easy to shut them down. And the inventory in the warehouses were just bulging. And now we see that bulge is starting to be brought under control. But I think this last year, 2025, we just started to see all this inventory. Just, people are starting to pick up a little bit and interest in buying some stuff again, boats and bigger ticket items. But there's still a lot of inventory in the chute. And, so it's going to be a buyer's paradise. If you got the money and you want to get something, there's some good deals out there. And we've seen that, but there's a lot of inventory, a lot of used stuff, a lot of new stuff, and a lot of stuff's expensive stuff that's not moving. And unless you're, in that 1 percentile and you can afford those, money is not an issue, and, paying off your credit card every month and loans are not an issue, and you can go buy cash, big, expensive toys. That stuff kept moving, but it's all that middle class stuff where you had to get a loan. That stuff, that midline expensive stuff, man, to get a loan for $135,000 aluminum fishing boat, those sales really slowed down.
Yeah, it is, it could be. I don't want to speculate because I don't know, but when you have big wholesalers like Big Rock, closing doors, is that a direct result of all of this warehousing that's going on, all this extra stock that needs to be sold that unfortunately costs money to house? Like I don't know, but you're starting to see some stories being shared and some news items that are crossing the news feeds that has me a little concerned. And Big Rock is a big one for all of us, and we should all be taking note of that. I don't know. It's changed the playing field when it comes to distribution and the tackle industry as a whole. So it's going to be very interesting to see what transpires going forward. A lot of folks have said, Scotty, you and Brad you must think you're geniuses now that you've got this Made in Canada platform. And it just happened. Like we can't declare that we had no idea this was going to happen. I had no clue.
Yeah.
But on that note, if there's anything that I can advise or suggest or try to get the message out about, is we really do need to support our Canadian tackle producers in a really big way, more so now than ever, because I don't know what the playing field's going to look like after this year coming, and even 4 or 5 years down the road.
and anything that's crossing back and forth across the into the U.S. border, out of the U.S. border, anything that has, the warehouses are sitting over there and has to go in before it can come into Canada, China, U.S., Canada. As soon as it does that little jump into into the U.S., man, the tariffs are applied, and that's passed on to us, the consumer. So anything that's, these big companies that have warehouses in the U.S., all that stuff has gotten really expensive. So getting stuff that's sourced locally, and that's fantastic for us and for Canadian producers. So yeah, your show is brilliant, and that I think the builders of the products that you're representing and that are these people are showcasing, it's quality stuff.
Yeah.
And it's well priced. And yeah, maybe you can find cheaper from China stuff, or a little bit cheaper, but is it well made? Are you going to be providing people jobs here in Canada? I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
And I also want to think too that, and Brad and I both feel this way, that I think there's an aspect to people actually making their own tackle that we're not talking enough about. We're not embracing. I really think that this might spawn a lot of I don't want to say closet tackle producers, but folks that are going to pour their own plastics, make their own jig heads. Like, people are going to become creative. They're going to look into the possibilities that they can create, and I think that aspect of the industry better be prepared, because there's going to be a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there, I think, that are going to find ways to make stuff that they truly want to use. Again, it's all going to be interesting to see, and we're going to have a front row seat as it all unfolds.
Yeah. Well, another big story, I think, is the salmon fishing on the West Coast. Our marine recreational fishing on the West Coast, $1.1 billion of fishing, and it's a lot of money, but mostly it's a way of life for a lot of people who live in these coastal communities. The tourism, the outfitting, the restaurants, the hotels, the people coming to some of the great, what was, it has been and still is in many ways some of the greatest salmon fishing in the world, plus a beautiful, beautiful place in the world to come and visit, the West Coast of Canada. And a lot of that fishing, they're talking about, shutting it down until some sort of date down the road that they won't mention. It's a shutdown with no end in sight for recreational fishing in many parts of southern British Columbia, and it's being posed as save the southern resident killer whales, and that's a real tugging on the heartstring thing for many people. So you got this huge emotional cause, and it's pitched against people who want to go fishing, and it's brutal. It's brutal that you have this contest going on. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the orcas and people advocating for those killer whales? Is it going to be the way of life for people who fish? And the whole tourism industry wrapped around that. And you know what? It's looking like the killer whales are going to win, and they'll, whether or not you'll turn it around, there's so many things going against those killer whales, and a lack of food is not really one of them, because science will tell you that. We have science that shows there's lots of salmon around. There's many reasons why they're not accessing the salmon, and they're going down in numbers. So it could be like a rhinoceros story all over again. There'll be no fishing until it's down to the last one, and that could very easily happen if we buy into this cause that we have to save the southern resident killer whales no matter what. We will not turn the fishing back on until they're all gone, and they will. The trend is showing that they are slowly disappearing for many reasons, but we see that in nature all the time, right? We see that in nature all the time. Something comes and something goes, give and take. Nothing ever stays the same. Nothing ever stays the same. And
there could be arguments, that they're laying claim somewhere else. That maybe they're like every other animal. When their food source starts to dry up a little bit, they move elsewhere, and they look elsewhere for food. We've been introduced to this story of these orcas that are attacking great whites. They have a real fond love for shark liver, and they've adapted the hunting of great whites. Absolutely incredible videos and photography when it comes to some of that stuff. Like, holy crap! But yeah, to your point, it's hard to say, and again, we're gonna have to wait and see. It's one of those wait and sees.
Well, it's being made a political thing, and I think, and I've been saying to my friends out west, look, it's not just conservative member party people who go fishing. There's people who vote for NDP, people who vote Green, people who vote Liberal. There's many people who go fishing. Fishing is not a partisan issue. It's not, if you fish, you're conservative. And I know a lot of people who fish are conservative, but people of all colors and stripes fish. So why is this being made a partisan issue? You got to vote out the Liberals because this is the enemy. You got to get the conservatives in power to say, yeah, that's one strategy, but it may be putting all your eggs in one basket, and it may come too late. I mean, at some point the government will turn over. It always does, at some point, but when? And it's going to be too late. And then what? You've just come out and openly said, we hate the Liberals. We'll never vote for the Liberals. All people who fish in Western Canada and British Columbia hate Liberals and will never vote for you. So they're thinking, well, why do we care about you then? And, we can get more votes by saving killer whales, or at least pretending to. And we get all those Green votes and NDP votes and maybe some Liberal votes for doing this. And
that's just it. That's why I honestly believe that politics should never be in fishing. It should never come down to a political debate, fishing. And, Mitch says it best. Mitch, this is bang on. At the end of the day, I'm going fishing, and I want to catch a fish, and I will go with the cheapest lure and a way to get them, yada, yada, yada. But it's nice to support locals, which it truly is. But at the end of the day, I just want to go fish.
Yeah, 6 million people, 6 million adult Canadians over the age of 16, under the age of 65 buy licenses every year. And all the kids that can fish license free, and all the seniors that fish license free, and people with disabilities in many provinces that fish license free, and then just people who go fishing, at the cottage and don't even think about getting a license because they're at their cottage now, and this is something they've done for generations. Just go fishing, 100%. And so there's, it's a way of life for, many, 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 many Canadians, and to make it a partisan issue, oh my God, it's but I don't want to say that it's doomed, but they're having another rally in January, and they're renting a hall that's going to hold 1,500 people. It's going to be in Duncan, British Columbia. They're going to have all sorts of panelists and all sorts of people asking questions. And they've invited me to come out and be a panelist.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to say? I said, look, in Ontario, we vote, we're a little bit of conservative, and then we get tired of that, we vote Liberal. Then we get tired of that, we vote conservative. We change our parties in the provincial government back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, right? We're never, it's not a religion for us. It's just something that we think, oh, you've been at enough. Now it's the next guy. We're tired of you. Now it's the next team. We're out west. It's almost like a religion. Their belief in their party. They don't switch. They don't switch. They're really dedicated to their parties, and they'll die on the cross for them. And I just think, oh my goodness, how do you convince people
how you navigate that? Good luck. Steve brings up a great comment here. Every party needs to have a seat at the table when it comes to West Coast fishing, commercial recreation, Indigenous processors, everyone that has a stake. And I couldn't agree more, Steve. And their voice should have just as much carry and weight as the other.
But then you hear about these tables and these meetings, and they last an hour, and they start off with government people just trying to chew up the whole hour as fast as they can until the clock does a spin around, and then they're out the door. And why are they so reluctant to have meaningful engagement? Because they know they're just going to have the shit beat out of them. They're going to they're going to take a shit kicking. because the people sitting across from them hate their guts.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you're saying all sorts of stuff and then you're making all these pronouncements and then you say, nah, but now we want to come and sit down and have a nice chat with you. Oh man, I don't know. That's a great way to get that ball rolling, but
and there's a reason I don't have to sit in the House of Commons, and I never would want to. That's not my cup of tea. This Tony brought back or made a great comment, and something that I've always wondered too. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we all know, because we've watched Shark Week, that great whites feed on seals. It's it's well known, and for the most part, so do orcas. But with the vast amount of seals and walruses out in the West Coast, there should be no shortage of food, or am I missing something?
There's the seal and sea lion population on the West Coast and the seal population on the East Coast have not returned to their typical levels by any stretch. They haven't returned to the levels they were at 25 years ago. There were more of them back then. Okay. And it's just, when you have a fish stock that's struggling, and then you have seals and sea lions that position themselves at the bottom of fish ladders and openly, visibly harvest salmon that are preparing to go up the ladders, and you want to hate them. You want to hate them. You think, oh my God, I hate you. And then so it's. I'm not a scientist, but the scientists know. Yeah, the numbers are. The numbers are. It's not that out of balance. It's not that out of balance. And then you hear the numbers on the East Coast, so it says, well, seals are killing 20 times more cod than are being harvested. Well, that's because we've had a pause on the harvesting for the last 30 years, right? 35 years almost, where we said no harvesting, or just a little bit of harvesting for personal use and for your own food, for your own fridge. So yeah, the harvesting has been real low, but the population of cod is not expanding like it should. But it's not because the seals are just pounding the crap out of the cod. The cod just don't have the food source that they had. The capelin, and the capelin are being harvested by the people who make fish pellets to feed the aquaculture industry. So, and it's the same with the striped bass on the East Coast, in the United States. They eat menhaden, and the menhaden are being pulled out of there and ground into oil for making paint, and the meal is being used to make pellets for feeding the aquaculture fish industry and cat food and things like that. And the menhaden is just not around. So the striped bass, that's the base of the food chain for the striped bass population. There's no fishing striped bass this year in eastern United States. The population there is because it's being starved to death because they don't have the food base. And you see this on the East Coast of Canada. The capelin populations are really low, and you see this on the West Coast. The smelt population or the herring population is really, really low there too, right? And that's all being harvested for aquaculture. So, it's just, there's a bunch of things going on, and the seals are an easy target to say it's them. Like if we could, the population of fish would have a better chance of coming back without the seals. And there's no doubt about it. If you took the seals out of the equation and there was no predators left in the ocean eating salmon on the West Coast or cod on the East Coast, they'd have a better chance of rebounding faster. But, is that what you want to do? You really want to do that? You really want to go out there and shoot all those seals just to make sure the fish population rebuilds faster?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Steve, he actually ran a poll, and the results were 3-1. Orcas find salmon easier to catch than seals.
Yeah, they're good at hunting.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know, but you see them hunting you see them hunting. There's images now where there are seals and dolphins hunting together.
Yeah, I've seen that
together. Yeah. So look, the fact is, in the southern part of the British Columbia, there's a lot of shit going down. There's a lot of boat traffic, a lot of ferry traffic, a lot of, boats in general. And there's just a lot of noise in the ocean, and it's just not easy for whales to find big, juicy salmon. And there's fact that the big, juicy salmon aren't around as much as they used to be is not helping. And why is that? Because they're all being intercepted up in Alaska, in the pollock fishery. The pollock fishery, they're allowed to catch pollock, and we love pollock because we make artificial crab and artificial lobster, and it's cheap and it has no flavor, so you can make it into any seafood you want, and we buy that. And but when they net that pollock, they catch a lot of Chinook salmon up in Alaska, and they're not allowed to keep it, so they have to throw it overboard. And the amount of Chinook salmon being thrown overboard by the pollock fishery, dead, it's all dead. It comes out of nets, it's crushed, but they have to throw it overboard. The amount of the Chinook salmon being thrown overboard by the pollock fishery up in Alaska is just incredible. It's just incredible compared to what's left. And so there's a bunch of things that need to be done.
Yep.
But how do you turn off a very profitable pollock fishery up there? And how do you get the Americans to do that? We don't have the power, but we can, it's easier to kick the little guys around.
Yeah. And that's what we're fighting. Eric is asking an interesting question. And I know that polar bears, their numbers are starting to decline just because of the amount of, or lack of ice, not the amount, the lack of ice that they have up on our Arctic. But she's asking, what do polar bears eat other than everything?
Everything. Polar bears are really
they're a typical bear. Like they eat just about everything, right? Anything they smell, they're like every other kind of bear. They eat just about anything that's edible.
Yeah. And they're eating more, they're hunting more on land now because they're spending more time on land.
Right.
So they're learning to hunt on land, and they're breaking into buildings. And apparently if you have a fish camp up in along Hudson's Bay, James Bay, if you have a cabin, to put all your hunting and fishing stuff in there, polar bears rip things down. Apparently, like other bears push things over, polar bears rip things down. They dig in and just pull it apart. So it's a whole different, ball of wax that you have to deal with in terms of make your cabin bear proof. And the polar bears and the grizzly bears are breeding more and more, and it's getting weird. It's getting weird.
It definitely is. And with all of that and everything else that has been said, it's going to be interesting. And I'm going to ask this question to you: what would you like to see if there's anything that's going on in our fishing industry, our fishing community, or the industry at large? Is there any one thing that you would desperately want to see changed for the better?
Yeah, we desperately need to get people to the table. We see this in Ontario, where you have MNR negotiating with commercial fishing. You see them negotiating, with recreational anglers, and you see them negotiating with First Nations fishers. But we're all fishing for the same fish, and yet none of us are allowed to sit at the same table, right? It's like, okay, the MNRF will be God, and they will make the decision. They will decide the winners and the losers, and none of us will ever know why, because none of those conversations are ever made public, unless you're sitting at the table. And if you're sitting at the table, you probably had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. If you're there for one reason or another, like an employee, you can't come out of that meeting and talk about it. So we need to have tables where we all sit down and we all say, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? I want this. Well, yeah, you can want that. What do the scientists say? Well, the scientists say there's this much. Okay, well, how do we divvy that up? And we're not leaving this table until we've all agreed on who gets what. And when you have people saying, I get a share, and not the numbers so much, because if you're always divvying up the numbers, this is what they found out in the States, right? It's not about divvying up the numbers of what's there, the poundage. It's about a percentage. And then you can say, well, look, I'm entitled this much percentage, but if we need to take a pause so the numbers grow, my 2% is going to be a lot more in 5 years from now than it is now. It's still going to be 2%, but it's 2% of a much bigger number. So you're going to think more long term. And this has saved the U.S. fishing industry all around the United States. This has put almost every fish stock into a sustainable zone and taken them out of the endangered or at risk or over harvested zones. And almost every fish stock in the United States is doing very well, and the fishing is so good that they don't know what to do with the fish. They're having a hard time finding markets for the fish that they're catching. They catch so many now, and it's all sustainable, and we're not there. We're not putting people together. We're not having those conversations. We're not giving the people the science and giving them the power to take responsibility over the fisheries, to make good decisions about those fisheries. We're saying, okay, the fishing is open. You're allowed to catch this many pounds of fish. Good luck. You know, it's a race. And then people go out there and fish in the craziest weather just to make sure that they win the race. And it's a race to the bottom all the time.
Yeah. Some great comments that are filing up here.
Yeah.
From folks, and Mitch, you know, and I can appreciate this, Mitch, by you saying, I know I'll get some flack. Oh well, but overview the native fishing rates. I don't believe we're at a time where that is even going to be discussed because of reclamation and everything else that's going on there. But I don't disagree with you, Mitch. I mean, it's, again, everybody needs a seat at the table. As Steve said, everybody needs a seat at the table. And here's the thing. You can't just come with your own agenda. You have to come with some sense of compromise, that that you're coming to this table knowing you're not going to get everything, but whatever you do get is going to be enough. And I think that is part of it as well, is that folks just they can't be content with just this. They need more.
But if you're sitting at the table, Scotty, and the only person there is the government representative who's holding the gate, and you're saying, come on, crack that gate open a little wider. I want more. And if you push and you figure how do I convince these people to open the gate up and let that resource flow to my community? That becomes the game. But if you're sitting around the table and everyone else is looking at you and everyone else is looking at the government and saying, okay, that's what's behind that gate. Step back, government. You're not in control anymore. We'll start deciding on how that gets divvied up, and we'll make sure it's done responsibly, and we'll stop fighting you for a bigger share, because every time we take more out of that share, we're depriving other people. So you see this now, the lobster industry on the East Coast, the lobster fishers in Nova Scotia are suing the government, and they're saying, look, you keep allowing indigenous lobster fishers to get bigger and bigger piles and fish unregulated, and the whole industry has gone to hell in terms of lawlessness, and you've dropped the ball, but they have to sit at the table. Everyone has to sit at the table, because they're not ever sitting at the same table. It's the government I'm dealing with you now, and then I'm going to deal with these people tomorrow, and back and forth, and trying to mediate some sort of solution. You got to bring the sides together. When it does, it's so amazing. It works so well, but we got to stop thinking that the government, can be the gatekeeper and has all this power. We got to move the power down to the people and get people together. And that article I wrote in my last issue of the Bluefish News, we're talking about lakes having rights. Well, really what it means is the people who live around the lakes have some control over what happens to their lakes and their rivers, right? And the same on the coast. The people who live on the coast, all have collective responsibility to make sure that it's being managed properly. And we know from around the world, when people who on the coast have the a control over the harvest and decisions about that harvest, it goes very well. And
then, unfortunately, we have the eyesore that is the reminder when things don't work well, which is the Ganny. And Steve has mentioned this. At the end of the day, I mean, we don't want to close down fisheries, as George says. Like, that is not the answer. Closing a fishery is the last option, or should be the last option. But there's got to be a compromise. There has to be middle ground that everybody can agree on. And the unfortunate thing is, with the state of how corrupt certain aspects of our country are, I'm not going to label all of them, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but let's just say this, that a lot of folks have concern of things being legitimate or true. There's just so much misled information out there, and there is starting to grow a good amount of corruption. People don't have that trust. And that's, I think, where it all has to start, is that whoever is going to be a part of this panel has to have the trust and respect of those that they're speaking for, that they're there for. And to your point, at the end of the day, do I want a politician talking about what I want, no, not maybe before, but certainly not now. I don't believe any of them are qualified enough to do that.
But they did a survey of Great Lakes people, Great Lake recreational fishers, and it absolutely how we fish and why we fish is definitely broken down culturally, right?
Yeah.
Like you First Nations fishers, their value is we don't play with our food. Everything we catch, we keep because we don't want to just, we're not, that's not our values. It's not a sport. It's something we do to catch food for all those sorts of reasons. People who fish in the Middle East, everything they catch is for food. Everything. They feed their families. They've been doing that for thousands of years, right? That's the way it is. And then they come here and they think, well, look, I can feed my family. And I just have to buy this license for $20 or whatever. And they think that this is fantastic. But no one's educating them. No one's teaching them. No one's, saying, here, let's have some classes. Let's have some education. Let's have some awareness about conservation and all that. Everything that we've been growing up with for the last couple of generations, learning how to be stewards and conservationists of the resource. These are people who have just come here relatively recently and maybe don't even read English that well, or just haven't been made aware that we do things a little bit differently here, and we have to work together to make sure it's done sustainably. But that Ganny, man, that it's so visible. Yep. It's so everyone sees what's going on.
Yep.
And no one is getting involved with enforcement, with making it a regulated fishery with potties and garbage cans, so that it's not a mess, and some legal enforcement, some education, some awareness, some training, some fishery kind of open houses where, okay, come on, let's get together and we'll talk about how to do this properly. Otherwise, you're going to get tickets. You just don't hand out driver's licenses to people who have never driven before and have no idea what the signs mean. Yeah. It doesn't work. It's chaos.
Well, and it's the cart before the horse, right? When we were, in regard to right, wrong, or different, as I said, I'm not here to judge, but at the end of the day, when we took the stance that we were going to immigrate a whole bunch of people, and we didn't have the infrastructure in place for their assimilation into society, and we have to get down to the grassroots of things. They have cultural differences. They have. Their world is completely different than ours. Let's call a spade a spade.
The world they came from was different. Is different than ours. That's for sure.
100%. So for us to look badly on these people that are taking salmon out of a river, do they know that they're committing that? What have we done to educate these people? Because I can assure you, there isn't a translation into any of the languages for them here. With what we do. So.
And these people are sneaking in there at night. They're not sneaking in there at night with balaclavas on and wearing black clothing and hoodies.
Right.
Right.
That's my point.
They don't know they're stealing. They have no idea.
Yeah.
It's not I'm not making excuses for anybody, because ignorance is not a defense against, committing breaking the law. But everyone sees what's going on. So why aren't we, why isn't someone stepping up and doing something about it? Why aren't we having some enforcement and some regulation and some awareness? The amount of people that go to the fish, it should be a celebration. It should be done and executed in a way that's beautiful, that's wonderful, that's a celebration that we can all take pride in and benefit from and enjoy. It shouldn't be what it is now, just a free for all of people who have no, that they think it's just every man for themselves and whatever, whatever goes. It reminds me of Streetsville, in the 1970s when the salmon first started coming up the Credit River. It was chaos, absolute chaos. And there was, and the people there doing that snag fest, they were not, the people were looking at the Ganny, those different people altogether. They were all people, our ancestors, people we all grew up from and were related to. They just didn't know. They just didn't know.
And Richard, sometimes it wouldn't matter because people just don't care, and that doesn't matter what their background, what country they came from. Yeah. Like you just said, it can be some of our own flesh and blood over
here. And if you think there's no rules, there's no rules. And you think, I'll just catch the salmon whatever way I can. And look, and there's places in the States where you have natural runs of fish that go up and slam up against a dam, And then at some point, they just say, okay, come and get them. And people just come with big weighted treble hooks and pull them out. And that's it. It's no laws being broken. And it just happens. And so it's all a matter of perspective, right? It's all a matter of perspective. And we just got to sort it out and get everyone at the table and figure it out. And I don't know. I think we've got we've got to move forward. And I think the best way is if we just started saying, hey, look, we want to work together. We want to work together. This is like the liberals and the conservatives on the West Coast and the NDP and they don't want to talk to each other about the fishing. They're not talking to each other. And Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people in many parts of Canada aren't talking to each other, about the resource. We've got a lot of issues, and we got to start communicating. We got to start taking some of the power. It works. We see it working in the United States. We see it working. Absolutely, we see it working. So we've got to just look at the lessons and say, convince our politicians and just say, look, we want to do this properly and we want to do it sustainably. And there's better ways of doing it, because the way you're doing it right now hasn't been working so well.
Yeah. Oh, very true.
Yeah. Hey, I got some.
That is the first step, isn't it? Isn't that the first step in solving a problem, is identifying that there is one?
You know what? We all know that, with the fishing has been and we've had all sorts of environmental groups saying fishing is ruining it. Fishing is ruining it. And I've been fighting for 15 years, 20 years now to tell these environmentalists, don't lump us all in with the commercial fishers. Yeah, we've seen commercial fishing that's been completely unregulated, and it's all political, and it's all about jobs and not about the resource. And we've seen fishing get wiped out because it's been political, and the industry is just too powerful. No one wanted to get in their way. But I said, let's educate people here. I'm just looking at the UK. There's some news coming out of the UK, right? And this organization has developed a program where all kids in the UK school system are going to learn to fish. They're going to learn about fishing. They're going to learn to fish. They're going to be taken out of the school and go fishing. And they're going to walk on the streams and the shores and get their, and go catch fish. And they're going to learn about the history of fishing, all aspects of fishing, not just with a rod and line, but where the fish come from, its connection to commercial fishing, because they realize in the UK, fishing is a big part of their culture. They're surrounded, it's an island surrounded by water, and there's a lot of people who fish in all these coastal communities. It's a big part of their history, and people who love to go fishing with a rod of line. So they have a course now. It's a mandatory course. It's starting next fall of 2026, where all children will take a course in fishing as part of their school system.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I know, eh?
And there's I could get on our curriculum when it comes to teaching our kids definitely needs to change in a way, like we were talking about it at work. We were never taught how to fill out a tax form. Like that's something that you really need to do and need to know to do. And we're not taught that, anyway, fishing is definitely something that I think is something that should be a part of the curriculum, and the environment, the environment as a whole, not just fishing, but the environment as a whole. Yeah, but, that is absolute. That's really cool.
How to go out into, whether you're going fishing in some pond in the middle of the city or you're going out into the country, you just because no one's looking doesn't mean you can go nuts. Just because no one's around doesn't mean you can just go. You have to take the responsibility. People have to learn what that means and what it looks like, and what to expect and what we should be expecting of each other. It's interesting, but that only comes through knowledge and mentorship and values, right? And then if we teach the values to the young people, then they'll understand the laws, because laws come from values. The laws just don't pop up out of nowhere. They come from our values. We all start to believe in something, and then we believe in it so strongly that we say, look, if we all believe this, and if you're stupid enough to go against what we all believe, you're going to get punished. And that's how laws are made. But we got to have the values. We teach those values at a young age, and so people respect the laws because they understand what they're for.
True enough.
And we're
George,
not doing that.
No, George put up a great resource here.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this book exists. You might have heard about this, Lawrence. For those interested, there is a book just published. It's an ebook. It's free, called Understanding Recreational Fishers, which describes the current science and situation. That's awesome. In fact, I'm gonna research that because I'd like to read that.
Yeah, me too. That's really cool. I want to interview the author. That's really cool.
That would be a great topic and discussion.
Yeah.
Well, there's the link. Thanks so much for that's awesome, George. Thanks for doing
thanks,
this.
George. Yeah, very cool. Very
well,
cool.
Lawrence. We've
good,
gone
man.
a little bit past the half hour, but that was for two guys that didn't really have a lot to talk about when we first spoke before going live. That was a very full and complete session and segment. So I really appreciated you thinking quickly on your feet, I might add.
Well, I had a little list here of things I was going to bring up. I got the first thing off the list anyways. But no, I got a couple things off the list, but I think, we're trying to sum up the year a little bit, some of the big issues from this year. And yeah, I know we strayed a lot into commercial fishing this year in our conversations, but we're all lumped in together, right? Commercial, recreational, indigenous, we're all lumped in together in a lot of ways because we're all fishing from the same pond in many ways. It's all connected. So we need to know what's going on, and we should all be talking. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Lawrence, I want to wish the entire Gunther family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope you guys get some rest and relaxation over the holidays, and just enjoy family, get back to the grassroots of what it used to be and how fun it used to be when it was just family. Hopefully you get a big dose of that, a heaping.
Well, you got to make it. And the trees are up, the decorations are up. Awesome. We're all looking forward to it. We got a few groceries in the fridge that we're looking forward to, some special meals, and just slowing things down and just enjoying ourselves and enjoying family and friends. It's it's a good time, man. We all got to do that. Thanks, Scotty. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do, man. You too, buddy.
And we will see you in the new year. So enjoy your holiday, my friend.
Yeah, thanks everyone for all the comments. Keep the comments coming. Bluefish Canada, we want to hear from you all the time. These stories, these ideas, these concerns, email them. bluefishcan@gmail.com is remember, bluefishcan@gmail.com. Send me your comments, send me your ideas, suggestions, and we'll make sure we cover it and dig in and dive in and explore the heck out of things and report back. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. And Pete, before I go, I just reminded myself, Pete LeDuc wanted to say hello to you and wish you a Merry Christmas personally.
Thanks. Thank you. You too.
Right on, brother. Well, you take care of yourself, and we will see you in the new year.
Right on, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, Lawrence. Really appreciate your time. Take care now.
You too.
All right. Well, that is the end of our show. And it is now my time to wish all of you a Merry Christmas on behalf of Big Jim, Lawrence, Jason, our OWA ladies that come and spend some time with us here on CFN Live. From the North Channel, Walleye Open, Derby on Wheels, Horwood Lake Lodge, Camp McIntosh, Ugly Boys Baits, to all the vendors from the Made in Canada Marketplace. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. Kayak Bass Canada, wish all those folks a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well. And of course, to my beloved Legacy members, it is just a collection of good people. I'm very, very proud to be a part of CFN and part of our Legacy group. We have some interesting conversations during our Legacy chats, much of which is spawned on by our good buddy Richard Dunlop, who needs a hobby in a really big way. No, we do appreciate all that you bring, Richard. And I especially want to thank Walter Huck and Steve Shaw for all you do for our CFN community and me. I couldn't do any of this without you guys and, of course, the support of our community. I want all of you to have a wonderful Christmas. I'm hoping for a prosperous new year for all of you. And let's hope that 2026 is a little bit better than 2025. I'm hoping that for all of you, because we all deserve it. All of you that join us each and every Monday, that support our content, support our community, like, share, leave a comment on all of our content. It means so much to everybody that really holds CFN near and dear to our heart. I'm hoping everybody gets some time with their family. We will be making posts throughout the holiday season, so stay tuned to that. It's not like we're closing the doors, that's for sure. Things never end, and they never will stop here at CFN. I can guarantee you that. That is my promise to all of you. So on that note, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2026. Peace. Love you all.
So from all of us at OFC Nation, Cat McIntosh, Pow Castings, Ugly Boys Baits, Horwood Lake Lodge, and of course our beloved CFN, wishing all of you the happiest of holidays. And from my family to yours, wishing you all a Merry Christmas and healthy and prosperous